Hello, everyone. Pat on MMA back with another DWCS breakdown. Last week of the season, week 10. I can't believe we're at the end of the season already. I really appreciate the support I've got this season, especially for my actual in person coverage of the Contender Series this year. It was great to see all the interest and just all the love I got there. So, thank you all for that. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We have a 6-fight card coming up. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. Very interesting card coming up. We have Mario Mingaj versus Wes Schultz in the opening bout of week 10. Going to get into Mario Mingaj first, but really don't want to spend too much time on this fight in general. Mingaj 7-0 from Italy, 6'4". He has a massive frame for the weight class. He'll throw his head down the center line when striking at times, and he will get hit up because of it. And he will wrap up in the clinch well and kind of just it has some decent throws, decent tosses, and all right body lock. His goal is to get the fight to the ground, but not necessarily to get on top. He has some awful takedown defense, but that may be intentional. Sometimes he wraps up the neck, but he never really commits to the choke. He'll get caught on the cage and his back for long periods of time, but he likes to get butterfly hooks on the bottom and lock up quick triangle chokes. He's kind of just a triangle choke master. If you look at his record, I mean, it's no secret that the triangle choke is clearly his best weapon, but it's actually pretty insane when you actually watch the fight how much he actually does rely on that one move. As you can see, he has 4 of his last 5 wins by that triangle choke, and even in the Zlatev fight, he was looking for it, but didn't have the chance to get it. He is a bit weird in scrambles. He's not great, but he can reverse pretty well. He'll end up on his back, but like I said, he kind of likes that. He just has decent overall control, but he just gets reversed way too often, which, like I said, I don't know, might be on purpose. Good back takes. Control isn't great on the back, though. His last fight was actually a meme of a fight with the size difference. I mean, I don't even know why you'd even book that. It was very funny looking, I can't lie. And his only fight that went the distance was an performance. I mean, he didn't impress at all, to be honest. So moving on to his opponent in Wes Schultz, who is actually a Dana White Contender Series vet. He fought Mansour Abdul Malik on last season of Dana White Contender Series. He is 6'2", 7-2 record actually. And 29 years old. He lives out in Wisconsin. Schultz does have a pretty decent right hand, but he is a bit sloppy overall, just doesn't have much power in his punches. He does have some pretty solid kicks, though. He can get very tricky with those kicks. Some good high kicks, spinning wheel kicks, flying knees. He kind of just mixes in a lot of unpredictable strikes with his legs, which I definitely do like to see. It's definitely more than Mingaj does on the feet. He also spins and throws a lot of just weird strikes in general a lot. He can be caught with kicks and have his kicks caught, which may be an issue in this fight. In the grappling front, though, Schultz has a decent double leg. He's good at getting on top in scrambles and just reversing. He has some really solid ground and pound and mount. Tricky off of his back, but he's best with his guillotine. His takedown defense does seem pretty good, but I have seen him like spin into takedowns sometimes with some of that wild striking, so that definitely is an issue. Did lock up a really weird guillotine in his last fight. I don't know if that would work against, like a higher level of competition. It was a very lower level kind of guillotine, and he did get mounted and smashed after a very sloppy fight with MAM, but he did have some success in that fight, and MAM is kind of considered a decent prospect right now. So I think that should hold a little bit of weight, the fact that he gave him his probably one of his toughest fights to date. And in this Dylan Budka loss, he kind of just got top timed and worked in Budka in rounds 2 and 3. In round 1, he did actually win that round, but he just kind of got controlled and ground and pounded in rounds 2 and 3 as the fight wore on. It's a weird matchup here, I can't lie. I really don't favor either side much because I really don't think that highly of either guy here, but I do like what I see more from Wes Schultz. I think he's a lot more well-rounded. He has a lot more ways to win this fight. I don't know if he's necessarily a great striker, but I think he's the better striker. He has more weapons, has more tools, has a lot more ways to win on the feet for sure. And then on the ground, I think Mingaj really just has that triangle. I think he has a rear naked choke on his record as well, but not an impressive level of competition really. So all of his wins really just come by that triangle. So I think if Wes Schultz can avoid that triangle, he'll be great. Schultz normally doesn't sit in a guard when grappling. He may take away that main weapon that Mingaj constantly likes to win with. Schultz really likes to prefer grappling from the back for the most part. Mingaj will give up minutes on his back as well. I really think he'll only win this by the triangle. So it really just depends on how well Schultz can avoid it. On the feet, I expect it to be more sloppy with a lot of kicks, Probably some sloppy grappling exchanges as well, but I think I lean towards Schultz being more well-rounded here. I think he picks up a decision win in the first fight of the night. Moving on to our next fight here, I do want to be a little bit quicker because, like I said, there is 6 fights. So moving into Azamat Nuftillaev versus Jovan Leka, I'm going to start with Nuftillaev here. Nuftillaev is an interesting case, to say the least. He is 17-1-1, so you'd think, wow, like, why has this guy not been looked at in the UFC yet, especially at the heavyweight division? I mean, it's almost stupid to think, but there's good reason there. I'm not gonna lie. I don't like what I see a lot from Azamat Nuftillaev. He'll run in throwing wild hooks. He has some power behind them, but really not much. He has an all right jab and good knees up the middle, decent outside leg kicks, and all right punches off the break in the clinch. But he keeps his chin really high while rushing in recklessly. He gets caught a lot and has just basically no striking defense, to be honest. If there are a lot of strikes being exchanged on the feet, he's almost definitely losing the fight. He will push forward even when he's tired and losing, so I'll give that to him. That's something. He'll have a lot of heart, a lot of good recovery, but he'll just basically want to rush in for a quick clinch or takedown. And once he gets there, he has some decent trips in the clinch, but he mostly just uses his weight. He has a decent single leg and some pretty quick and slick chokes, but he's kind of just a blob on top for the most part. He just lays and prays kind of with a little bit ground and pound mixed in, and then he'll throw a nice flurry of elbows every once in a while, and he actually has finished a couple of his fights with some of those flurries of elbows that he'll just like randomly throw throughout the fight. But he doesn't really offer anything off of his back. He'll take advantage of mistakes made on top, but doesn't really have any offense he can mount on his back. He has some pretty bad cardio. He'll have his hands on hips in round 2 if he faces any real resistance, and just a really weird and rough level of comp, mostly journeymans and just absolute cans. In the Edevan Santos fight, Santos was able to tee off on him here and almost basically had him out of there. I think it would have been stopped by other refs. It was just an absolutely bad look for Nuftillaev in that fight. And then he got hit a couple times there, head kicked, and then kind of just like laid down. And then he got dropped bad again and dominated in round 3, but then rallied for the comeback after Santos death gassed. So I mean, that's like I said, he has the heart, he has the recovery. In the Batista fight, he got taken down by Batista and mounted by Brandao in this fight. Just has really, really bad takedown defense, to be quite honest with you. He got walked down on the feet by Slim Trabezi, who is not a good striker. He's a complete grappler. He did have a moment and scramble really well in round 1 to get on top and actually control a bit of round 1, but then he got dominated the rest of the fight with the wrestling as soon as Slim reversed. So I'm not sure what exactly that was, but it was a good look. It was just not sustained at all. And the Slim loss, like, that's not a bad loss to have. His one loss on his record isn't a bad loss, but then you look at the draw versus Protsenko, and that's not a great look. He was taken down easily by a very overweight Protsenko. He did what he basically always does in his fights, but only fought a guy that doesn't wilt to the stuff he does, and it was forced to go to a draw. I don't know how it was a draw, to be honest. I thought Protsenko had done enough to win, but either way, I mean, it wasn't a good fight. And the thing with Nuftillaev is he's been pretty inactive recently, 1 fight a year for the past 3 years, and he is, like I said, just good recovery, fights with heart more than he fights with skill, though. And with a guy like Jovan Leka, I actually, I went in not expecting much, but I actually was pretty impressed. 23 years old, 6'5", 79-inch reach, 10-2 record, 6 wins by knockout. I mean, a guy like Jovan Leka actually does interest me as a potential good heavyweight prospect. He's very patient, almost too patient, but not really low volume. He has a nice jab, a great straight right hand, some good lead left hooks, a clean hooks to the body, clean uppercuts as well. He just has some really quick hands in general and some solid kicks overall. Pretty quick, and he can throw them in both stances. He has a really nice rear high kick and also a really nice switch lead high kick that he throws really well. He has a really nice teep to the body, some strong leg kicks. He uses his lead hand to manage range well and doesn't like exchanging in the pocket at all. That's the one thing I'll say. If you can force him to exchange in the pocket, he will not like that. He does not like being close with the striking. He just likes to break down his opponents over time with good strikes. He doesn't have crazy power. He's just a technical and accurate striker. He has some decent head movement, but he still manages to get hit at times. He doesn't block all too well, but at least does keep his hands pretty high for the most part. He sprints back when his opponent blitzes at times, just scared to exchange in the pocket and get in that close range. His takedown defense has been improving. He defends takedowns on the cage well. He can be pulled down, but he gets up quick for the most part, and he has some good reversals on takedown attempts. He shoots when he doesn't need to, though, at times. He has some pretty bad entries. In the Anton Vinikov fight, one of his 2 losses, he grappled when he didn't need to and shouldn't have. He did good in the cage grappling and defended a lot of takedowns well and made small mistakes that might have swung those first 2 rounds or so. But then in rounds 3 to 5, he kind of gassed out and was held down, but managed to keep getting up. You know, he was never really in trouble in that fight. And overall, he has some really good cardio at heavyweight, I think. He's been 5 rounds in this Vinikov fight, and I thought he looked fine for a heavyweight in round 5, especially on the regional scene. And he's been very active lately. I mean, this is his 4th fight of 2025. So with all that said, I am just a lot more of a fan of Leka than I am Nuftillaev. I know the records can be very deceiving, but just to go through Nuftillaev's record again real quick, you just got to see, like, if it's not a random Brazilian, who were the toughest fights he had, actually, it's really unimpressive competition for the most part. It really isn't anything good. Leka's competition, I mean, hasn't been special or anything, but I think it's been decent. With all that said, I like Jovan Leka here. I think he breaks down Nuftillaev on the feet. Nuftillaev kind of desperately needs to get this fight to the floor, in my opinion. There's just a worlds of difference here on the feet, technically. Leka will probably be forced to grapple at some point. It really just depends on if he gets taken down or stays up. He may be able to even reverse if he does get taken down. I'm more worried about actually him getting held on the clinch. I think that's honestly one of his worst paths to losing this fight, is being held up against the clinch for too long and just losing minutes on the clinch. Leka has never really just given up, though, like past Nuftillaev opponents. If Prozenko could, I think he can. Give me Jovan Leka here by a round 2 knockout or a decision. I don't know if he'll finish this fight if he gets to round 3, but I could see him still winning the decision if it does get to that point. But I could see a round 2 knockout as well. Nuftillaev has been bombed in round 2 a couple times. For our next fight of the evening, we have a welterweight banger between Michael PQD Oliveira and Victor Valenzuela. We do have an LFA versus Fury battle here, and I will be starting off with Michael Oliveira. Oliveira is just an absolute specimen of an athlete. I mean, he is just so built, moves really well. I mean, he is just very, I don't know, like, you can just see it in this picture. The picture speaks for itself. He is a specimen. He has some great footwork. He can control the range and pace without actually throwing anything. He stalks opponents down and forces them to fight off the cage. Sharp jab, a big straight right, very powerful, power in all his punches. Big counter left hook, quick, clean punches off caught kicks. He just has massive power if he lands clean with any punch, basically. Just needs to land clean for the most part. He normally doesn't hit opponents with like clipping shots and drop them. When he lands clean, it's like that's when they feel the power. He's dangerous and high volume when crashing in, but reckless. He doesn't care about being countered, and he does get countered sometimes. He will get hit, but he does have a pretty good chin. He'll rely on head movement and footwork more than blocking. He'll keep his hands low, get countered on naked kicks sometimes, but he does throw a lot of those kicks. They add up, some big rear high kicks as well, and those kicks are definitely another big part of his arsenal. On the ground, he has some relentless ground and pound. Not too strong, but goes for the finish. Overall, though, he just doesn't like to grapple at all. He does not want to be on the ground grappling. In the Aldo Pereira fight and the Dallas Gama fight, he actively avoided the ground against both of them in both fights. The only time he really went to the ground is when he thought he would follow up with punches and get the finish, and that's what he did very late into round 3 of the Gama fight. Pereira did land some nice punches on him early. He did look very stiff against him in general. He dropped him twice in round 2, but was super smart not to follow to the ground. It was just a weird performance in general, though. I thought he probably should have finished a guy like Aldo Pereira, but Pereira has been tough and has been to decision in like his past 6-7 fights. Oliveira's just been more patient lately, though. I think he was fine when he was aggressive, but in his last 2, he's definitely been more patient overall. He has some solid cardio, though. He hasn't slowed down at any of these fights that go later. It's not like he's throwing a very high volume, to be honest, so I get why he doesn't. He might be storing some of that cardio, but with that said, he has the power to finish in round 1 or the power to beat you by decision, and we have seen that now ahead of this DWCS fight. I'm a big fan of Michael Oliveira, and he is actually probably a top 10 prospect for me, maybe even top 5 overall. I've been a big fan of Michael Oliveira for a while now. Moving on to Psychosis, Victor Valenzuela. Valenzuela is 12-3, 31 years old, trains at MMA Masters. He has a really sharp straight right and counters really well. He has some very tight hooks, short and powerful. He loops his left hook very well, has some good counters, and targets the body well with hooks. He throws well in combination in the pocket and swarms with volume. He has some really nice outside leg kicks, decent high kicks, and really strong knees. He can be be a bit sloppy in a brawl, though. He keeps his chin high in exchanges and when entering the pocket, and he can be caught after his kicks a lot. He has some pretty bad takedown defense too. He gets his back taken pretty easily, but he does have a decent armbar off his back. He has really strong ground and pound when finishing, though, some really solid elbows and some pretty decent top control. He was dropped by Whitehead in seconds in his last fight, recovered quick and ended up KOing Whitehead, rocked him and then KO'd him with a brutal knee. He gets hit a lot in almost every fight, though. 2 of his losses, I will say, came over 10 years ago. He had a whole, 8-fight career from 2013 to 2016 that I really didn't look into, to be honest, because I don't like to look into stuff that's that old. I feel like he's a completely different fighter than he is now. But, he did have these 2 losses 10 years ago. His other loss that was recent was a DQ loss for an illegal head kick. So he has been very solid since coming back. This is his career since coming back, and it has been very good. He's been on a very nice finishing streak, 4-fight knockout streak. My only thing is I think that he's kind of the perfect style matchup for PQD, to be honest. If PQD fights the way that he should, the way I think he will, I see him getting a knockout in round 1, maybe round 2. Valenzuela just gets hit way too much and likely just doesn't have the footwork and movement to deal with PQD's fight-changing power. I could see Valenzuela landing a couple nice shots while crashing in, but I just don't know if he'll really rock Oliveira or scare him off. If Oliveira does come out passive like recently, I could see this extending or maybe even going the distance. Valenzuela does seem pretty tough, but with it being DWCS and Valenzuela having that bad defense and having been dropped in his last fight, I'll just lean that PQD comes out looking for the big win early, gets the big win early, probably round 1, but very well could be round 2. I like Michael Oliveira a lot, like I said, and I am picking him to win this fight by knockout early. Next fight of the card is a pretty tough one for me. We have Australia's Marwan Rahiki, a 6-0 prospect, very young. I don't know the exact age. I want to say he's like 22, 23 though. He's young, around my age. And he's a beast, to be quite honest with you. I'm a big fan of Marwan Rahiki and his skills. He has a pretty decent level of comp for just 6-0. He's tall for 145, has some pretty solid head movement, quick punches over the top, a big right hand, really strong left hook to the body, solid power, super crisp, quick, and accurate with his punches, good jumping knees, uses them to set up his combinations for the most part, and a front kick to the body caused the finish in his last fight, so he has shown some really good kicks to the body especially. Super quick hooks in the pocket. I mean, he just stalks his opponents to the cage, forces exchanges, and then wins with his speed, accuracy, and power. It's a mix of all 3. You just kind of got to see it to know, like, he really is just like stalking these guys down and then throwing some absolute bombs. He's also really big for featherweight, 5'10". With that said, though, he can be countered in some of these exchanges where he is blitzing in, looking to throw these hooks. He kind of does leave himself open to being countered. He does have some pretty clean spinning wheel kicks, but in the grappling, he just doesn't have the best takedown defense. He was pulled down easily by Schlupp, but turns his defense into offense well. He'll get over aggressive and kind of just run into takedowns sometimes, usually when looking to blitz with those striking combinations, but he does have some tricky get-ups and scrambles and a good butterfly guard, a really nice guillotine as well. And he's good at reversing and, like I said, just turning that defense into offense. Rahiki also has some massive ground and pound and elbows. There is absolutely insane power behind his ground and pound and elbows. And this is also his 7th fight since the start of 2024. I mean, you look at his level of competition, it's not bad at all, but he also had some amateur experience too, so he has some extra experience there. But all these fights are just in such a short time frame. He's a very active fighter. The Kikembo fight, he did have some struggles here. I think it was just a good test for where he was at this point. Really showed how he can push, how he can get the finish, especially get the submission as well. But overall, Marwan Rahiki is just a really sick striker. He's very young, very hungry. You can tell by the way he fights. He was the double champ down in Australia, and I do like him a lot as a prospect. Moving on to his opponent, Ananias Mulumba. Mulumba is 9-2. And he is from Congo. He's 27 years old and 5'9", so just a little bit smaller, really not much of a size difference here. And he is a big finisher. Both of these guys have all their wins by finish, by the way. Mulumba is patient. He can fight in both stances comfortably, has some good footwork. He's always on the front foot. He has a big straight left hand, swings wild, wide, and heavy hooks. He'll swing his way into the clinch and look for takedowns. He has some good knees in the clinch, some solid push kicks and leg kicks, but he gets caught too much almost every time opponents crash in and force these big exchanges or when he's moving in himself. He got dropped by a very bad opponent in his last fight and hit too much early. His opponent was 10-11 and definitely caused some issues for him on the feet early on in that fight. And I think it was just because of the unpredictability and pressure and, just pushing forward striking. But that's something that Rahiki will do. I didn't love Mulumba's takedowns either. He kind of just shoots basic double legs for the most part against the cage, and most fights will end up on the floor randomly. He takes advantage of a lot of slips, a lot of mistakes, but he does have some good takedown defense himself. He can reverse into control positions, strong top control, but he just doesn't transition all too much. He'll usually just get him out and then end it from there after his opponent rolls to their back. That's usually where he finishes the fight from. He has some really quick back takes. He's quick to look for the rear naked choke, but all he has for submissions is that rear naked choke. He does land some consistent and pestering ground and pound and has some really strong ground and pound elbows, and it's definitely an issue if you let him get to mount. He is definitely an issue in the mount, but DeJourn caught him in a very deep guillotine, and Mulumba kind of gave him the chance to readjust that guillotine while it was sunk in. And I don't want to say he didn't know how to deal with it. It was more he let DeJourn control that position way too much and lock in that choke. And also in the Isaac Comey fight, Comey reversed him from mount in round 1, defended takedowns, and rocked him. So this was a very interesting fight. I know it was back in 2022 and he was less of a pro, but a lot of these fights in the middle didn't last long enough or were just repeats of previous fights. So I had to, dig a little bit deeper into Mulumba to see kind of what it looks like when he gets tested. And I'm not going to lie, I don't know if I love what I saw. I like Marwan Rahiki a lot. I think his style is kind of made to cause Mulumba some trouble for sure. And I think this fight will be a finish. I think this fight is going to end by finish. Both have only won by finish. I do expect it to happen here. It's likely the toughest test of both of their careers up to this point. I think Rahiki does have more finishing upside here. He's stronger ground and pound. He is quicker in the pocket, more accurate, similar power, I think, and a decent size advantage. I struggle to see Mulumba mounting as much grappling offense and takedowns needed for him to win in this fight. I think Rahiki will do well defending, if not early, then as the fight goes on. And I think both have power in their hands. Both can land early, put each other out. And Marwan's submission win, his guillotine win, that one win, was eerily similar to Mulumba's one submission loss to Yildiz DeJourn. Very similar, the readjustment, the way the choke happened, it was scarily similar. So I want to say I like Rahiki to win here by KO because that's what he's won by for the most part in his career, but it really wouldn't shock me if Mulumba was able to force some grappling but then got caught in some grappling. I just think Rahiki is the more polished prospect here, and I do think Mulumba is good. I just think Rahiki, this is his shot, and I think he's going to take full advantage of it. I do think he gets the finish here. I just don't know if it really is KO or sub. I'll say he probably gets it in round 2, but I'm honestly not too confident when exactly it'll happen. I just think that I like Marwan Rahiki to get it done inside of the distance here. So for the next fight, co-main event, we have Juan Diaz versus Kwon Won Il. Going to be getting started with Juan Diaz first here. Diaz is 14-1-1. He is 27 years old. He's on a 7-fight win streak, 5-9. Diaz is a bit of a slow starter. He heats up as the fight goes on, especially in rounds 4 and 5. He's a bit flat-footed. I think he has some quick hands, sharp counters, a pretty decent jab, a good counter right, some nice power, some clean boxing combinations. He taps with his leg kicks though. Nice left body kick, solid trips. Doesn't have the best entries on traditional takedowns. He has some good front chokes and solid takedown defense. Great back takes, and he'll actually roll to the cage once he has the back. There's some really interesting grappling and scrambles once he does hit the floor. And an incredible cardio and pace. He doesn't slow down at all. That's what I really think it is with Diaz. I don't think he has any crazy skills, crazy traits. I just think he's a gritty grinder. He breaks his opponents down slowly while being super hard to break himself. He'll use his cardio, use his chin, being in your face kind of throughout the fight and break you down. I really don't think he separates much. He has closer margins wins, closer margins rounds over some lower level opponents, like not terrible, but these guys just shouldn't be having close rounds with him. And I think he has close rounds in a couple of these fights where it's just kind of like you're not really separating and showing that you're, I don't know, special in my eyes. I don't know. I could be wrong here. Don't get me wrong. I didn't love what I saw from Diaz in terms of skill set. I like the fact that he is able to push as hard as possible constantly. His cardio is incredible and that he is able to fight over 5 rounds very well. Problem is, this isn't a 5-round fight. And Kwon Won Il is the exact opposite of a slow starter. He is a fast starter. He crashes in early, looking to exchange. He'll stay in your face and not exit boxing range, and he'll just constantly walk you down. He really cannot be deterred. You have to really put him out or put him down to deter him. He'll heat up as the fight moves on as well. He'll start evading better, throwing combinations better, keep up a heavy pace and pressure, and just constantly moving and changing direction. He never really sits in one spot. He's super high volume, lands at least 30 strikes around, I feel like, consistently. He just has a crisp jab, a clean straight right, some nice elbows, quick and snappy left hook, rips it in combination, really nice to the body, uppercuts, really just great combinations overall. Strong knees. He can be a bit weak to the body. He fought in one championship, fought Fabricio de Andrade twice, got knocked out in 62 seconds or less both times, both from body shots. He can be weak to the body. He was finished with those body shots in both fights. And he does have some pretty big reactions to feints, so some big feints can cause you to maybe pick up a read or two on him, but he will shoot takedowns early. He doesn't do much with them. He just kind of likes to keep you guessing. He does have some pretty decent entries on his double leg, though. If he does get on top, he will land some big ground and pound, have some pretty damaging elbows. He will give up his back when standing up, though. He's been taken down and had his back taken quick against Artem Belloc in that fight. And 4 of his 5 losses are in round 1. 3 are in the first 62 seconds. If we keep looking down, this fight was in the first 53 seconds, this one in the first round as well. Only 1 decision loss. All of his losses are really in round 1 for the most part. He's only been the distance twice, but his cardio seems completely fine. In his fights that have went deep into round 3, he was the one pushing the pace, pushing the pressure against Abelardo, and he did incredible in this fight and finished him late. He really just fights the same way every time, though. It's really up to his opponent to do something that's going to stop him or throw him off. Andrade just started ripping the body, and it gave out. Sato tested his takedown. Oh, my bad. Sato, in this fight, tested his takedown defense and kind of just, you know, took advantage of the fact that he gives up his back in the get-ups and jumped on the back and got the rear naked choke. Diaz isn't as opportunistic as a lot of these guys and doesn't have the quick finishing ability and quick finishing instincts that a lot of these guys do. He's okay with going deeper into fights, and I don't know if that's going to be great for him here because I think he's going to be getting tagged up while waiting to go deeper and deeper into this fight. I'm not really sure if his footwork either is good enough to keep up with Kwon's constant movement. Diaz really doesn't have as much volume or that early finishing ability to just make me worry about him being a threat for Kwon. I could see Kwon gassing after using all his energy to get Diaz out of there early in the first 2 rounds, you know, being on Contender Series, and that would be my late TKO path that I see for Diaz maybe, and I could see, you know, Kwon being gassed, Diaz rallying in round 3, maybe getting a late knockout or something, maybe landing to the body. But I didn't think Diaz's body work was exceptional. And I honestly I was a lot more impressed by Kwon from what I saw on tape. And I think that Kwon probably gets this done by decision. I could see a later knockout as well from Kwon's angle. I don't know if Diaz is going to be easy to finish, though. I think this is more just going to be a good striking showcase from Kwon. But I think that Diaz definitely does have a path here. It's just more about the fact that one's a really fast starter and one I think is more of a slow starter, and I think that the fast starter will hold up fine through the 3 rounds. But either way, I think I like Kwon Won Il to win by decision for this fight. Pretty crazy that this will be the last DWCS fight I break down of the season in the main event, and it's an interesting one for sure. We have Freddy Vidal coming back for his second shot. For anyone that doesn't know, Vidal fought on week 5 of the season. He beat Felipe Franco by a 3rd round submission. He is out of the team Saralongo. He's actually a gym teacher and a wrestling coach. He has some pretty good quick kicks, nice teep, works the body pretty well with them. He'll just rush in recklessly, though, with wild striking, storms forward, throwing combos. He's lacking big power in those combos for a light heavyweight. He'll roll with punches instead of defending. His chin is there to be hit. He looks to shoot early, charges in with his head down, and really no setup to his entries. He has some top control, but he likes to get to side control and land elbows, and he's pretty effective at doing that when he does get to side control. Spends a lot of time in just the side back control as well, not actually taking the back fully, but kind of on the back side. He's also a big time cage clincher. He was taken down early by Franco, worked back up, but was controlled for a bit. He didn't have great ground and pound. His finishes are more control and position based. Franco did land some nice punches in round 2, outstruck Vidal. So I thought that was an interesting look because Franco is not a good striker at all. Vidal was gassed in his last fight against Franco, and he out-cardioed him to win. Franco basically gave up the choke. I mean, Franco just had awful cardio and kind of gave him the win. It was also, and I think Vidal was probably 10 seconds away from losing to Franco, regardless of how gassed or bad he looked. I also think that Vidal's 4-pound weight miss might have had somewhat of a factor against the wrestler. Lee also kind of tagged Vidal up in the early portion of this fight and rocked him early, and then in his amateur fight, which is what I got to see before his first DWCS fight, he was in some really bad spots against Cromartie, taken down immediately, mounted, thrown in an armbar, so stuff like that. I'm not too high on Vidal, but he's undefeated obviously for a reason, so I'll definitely give him the credit where it's due. For baby monster Levi Rodrigues. Rodrigues is 5-0, 28 years old, 6'1", actually a former heavyweight. He's kind of bounced between heavyweight and light heavyweight for most of his career. Rodrigues swings wildly. There's not much technique behind him. He's pretty low volume as well. He'll just kind of plot in throwing bombs, looking to clinch when he's too close. He's not the best at range, but he will throw those really big bombs to keep him dangerous. He just kind of plods in getting hit sometimes though. He has a decent left hook and a really strong overhand right, a bombing rear uppercut, and is super dangerous when throwing in combination. He just has some really legit power overall and has some decent occasional leg kicks. Otherwise, he'll just kind of circle the outside, occasionally throwing those single strikes, but mostly just jabbing and kind of staring, to be honest. He's very, like I said, low volume. I'll spend the entire fight really just circling around the cage, and he has some pretty decent top control as well with some really big ground and pound. Ribeiro in his last fight did tag him up with kicks and punches early, and in that fight against Ribeiro, he landed a crazy KO where he sparked him with a flurry of left hooks as he was standing up from a takedown. It was a very interesting finishing sequence. He stunned him and then finished him, and it was just it shows that he's very opportunistic with his finishes. He sees an opportunity to throw a big bomb and land, and he'll take it. He also had Pereira in this fight pissed off. This fight was a very bad look in my opinion. He had Pereira, 3-3 fighter, pissed off because he did absolutely nothing for the first 8 minutes. He was being taunted and then getting walked down, but not really getting landed on, just getting walked down. Pereira ended up hurting his shoulder in this fight, and it wasn't even like a really clean finish. Like, it was a really bad performance, honestly, but it was off of a 2-year layoff, so I might just have to say it was a bit of ring rust because he did have some really big knockouts and big wins in his previous fights. But overall, I don't think Rodrigues is too impressive, but he has fight-changing power in one punch for sure. You can never really rule him out, and like I said, he's bounced between heavyweight and light heavyweight, has the boxing and kickboxing experience in the past, so with all that said, I think he's undefeated throughout his entire career. I think he, in his bio on Instagram, is like 12-0 or something like that throughout all of his combat fights. Rodrigues is definitely someone that probably should have been on the UFC's radar. Didn't impress me as much in his last 2 fights. I thought he was losing his last fight, then came back, and the fight before that was just a bad performance. So I am interested to see how he'll look on Contender Series, but I do think he has legit fight-changing power. I think Vidal had a grueling weight cut and grueling fight just a couple weeks ago on week 5. Rodrigues has fought much bigger guys at heavyweight, is used to dealing with the bigger guys, bigger grapplers. Vidal's striking is not much worse technically at all, but the power difference is going to more than make up for any evenness in the striking. Rodrigues is significantly more powerful than Vidal, and he's just going to be dangerous for every second of this fight. If Vidal doesn't get the takedown early or keep control, I just expect Rodrigues to take him out with his massive power and Vidal's honestly pretty poor defense. So with that said, I do think Levi Rodrigues gets the win here by round 1 knockout, but Vidal has a path for sure. If he is able to get this fight to the ground and keep it there, I think a decision win for Vidal would be more likely, but I lean Rodrigues to get him out of there in round 1. Wow, everyone, this is it. My last episode of Contender Series for this season. I will be uploading a couple fun content stuff from Contender Series after the season. I'm going to do like a ranking of a fighters list. I'm going to show you guys my lists on Tapology and everything. I want to thank you all so much for watching and keeping up with my Contender Series content throughout the season. If you all enjoyed, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And please go follow me on Instagram and Twitter at PatDanaMMA. I'm a lot more active on there, and that is where I basically have my home for MMA coverage in general. Thank you all so much for all the support and everything, and I hope you all enjoyed. Have a great one.